some of the services that we provide, accreditation services and memberships only to those who value quality for their clients and partners, of course. AAA services include a range of accreditation programs using international standards. So some of the services that we provide, education providers, certification bodies, and inspection bodies, laboratories, also PT providers. Some of the areas that we operate in, we are currently operating in as Europe, Asia, Middle East, and more, and we are keeping on expanding, of course. The importance of accreditation is your guarantee for reliable and comparable conformity assessment results. It increases the reliability of products, and accreditation is a mean of demonstrating your competency to your clients, to conformity assessment service providers. Of course, accreditation is an effective marketing tool that would also increase the revenue for the organizations and institutions. Why becoming accredited by AAA? This question is very important, and we all need to give a look for the benefits of being accredited by AAA. So the American Accreditation Association provides the accredited partners the value of adding the accreditation symbol and mark to their publicity materials, certificates, and etc. And also the ability to access our American Directory of Competent Personnel to generate your own AAA accredited certificates to your certified person. Also access to our majority of training programs and activities to add more value to your team and to your institution and organization. And here you can see an example of our certificates and how to find a certified person through our American Directory. And of course, the accreditation process is very simple with AAA. So it would start with the application form, and then after the accreditation required documents, and the assessment would start and send the report by AAA. And after that, the committee decision would be taken, so you can be granted of accreditation certificate. And here for AAA Partners of Success, here are some examples of our clients' review of their journey with AAA. As you can see, we focus on quality and time of our work. Here are some of our clients that we accredited internationally in many areas of business, such as Qatar, Middle East, Pakistan, US, and many other locations. And of course, it would be a pleasure for us to answer any questions you have and to assist you through your journey of accreditation. So you can contact us with these information so we can begin the process. And today's session is focused on the latest trends and training that are shaping the education landscape across the country. As we all know, education and training are crucial for personal and professional growth. And in this rapidly changing world, staying up to date with the latest trends and developments is more important than ever. That's why we are here today to share insights and expertise on the emerging trends that are transforming the way we learn and develop skills. During this webinar, we will explore the latest advances in training techniques, technologies, and tools that are being adopted by leading organizations across different industries. We will also discuss the challenges and opportunities that come with these changes and how they are impacting the way we approach education and training. Our expert panels of speakers will provide valuable insights and practical tips that you can apply in your own organizations and personal learning journey. So whether you are a training and development professional, an educator, or a lifelong learner, there is something for everyone in this session, of course. We are excited to have you all here today, and we look forward to a lively and insightful discussion. And thank you for joining us today. Before we start, I would like to introduce you to our main speaker, and you can share your questions and thoughts after his presentation. So we have today our main speaker, Dr. Kevin Gallaghre, is coming from California, USA. He has a PhD in agricultural entomology from University of California at Berkeley in 1988. His undergraduate studies started at Stanford University in mechanical engineering. He is working as a consultant and advisor in United Nations Industrial Development Organization and International Organization for Food and Agriculture. Provide consultations and training for the United Nations globally in more than 28 countries. So today we have the pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Kevin, who will share with us his area of expertise. Dr. Kevin, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Let me share the screen while we get started.
Of course.
Here we go. So this evening, I would like to give you a briefing on this new report that just recently came out on training trends and strategies to scale up operations, to grow quality, and to build the capacity of staff in your various organizations. The study was actually done with a very large group of persons, looking at the learning and development professionals that are often found in HR departments of large companies, or sometimes as consultants to smaller companies. The main goal of these L&D experts are to keep our employees up to date on what is going on inside the business, what is the most current capacity that's necessary, but it's also used for just basically looking at policy and looking at different aspects of a company. In the UN, when we log on in the morning, we usually have our first screen, and there is some L&D messages that are coming from the heads of our organization to give us the latest and usually exciting news about what we are doing as an organization. So this training, it's not just about basic skills, but it's also about knowing, keeping your employees up to date, what is going on, new policies, new activities within organizations, and any type of information that employees will need. And of course, over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of changes. COVID kept a lot of us at home. Many people were working online. Now, as people don't necessarily want to go back to the office, but really enjoy working at home, and sometimes necessary to work at home because of family or other issues, then the rise in hybrid working. And of course, there's a lot of new knowledge and skills that are constantly coming out in the area of accreditation, in different types of standards, regularly new updates all the time. And of course, these are all very important to keep our employees up to date. Today, we just look at a small part of the study, looking at what are some of the challenges facing the L&D is learning and development. And as I said, usually this is within HR to keep employees up to date. And how can we solve them? What is the modern learner looking for? And what can L&D do to give them what they need, and what are 5 key training trends which were identified in the report that we can use to work with our employees. Well, of course, there's a huge demand for high quality training and more personalized and relevant content. Not everybody and not every employee or even clients need the same information. So one of the great challenges that we have is to make sure that the right information is getting to the right people. Learning teams are struggling to meet some of the organizational needs, and this is one of the great goals of what we're talking about now in terms of training, how to make it more personalized and directed. I'm trying to get rid of, yeah, okay. These are some of the quotes that come out of the study. Demand is so fast moving. We're feeling overwhelmed and under-equipped to manage the speed and scale of production while keeping on top of quality. I'm sure that many of us feel the same way, that just in today's world, everything is changing so fast. And even as our businesses expand, we get into completely new languages, new cultures, and of course, new legal structures for the standards and accreditation. 40% of leaders highlighted a lack of investment or budget. That's always, all of us complain that we never have enough funding, but it's not just about software. Really, the big cost is the time that employees spend away from their day-to-day work. So we also want to be able to justify some of this work by making sure it's not too boring or too ineffective. And we want to make sure that it can really excite and our employees and keep them up to date with the needs that they are facing in their jobs. One of the main findings in the report was that quality matters. Online learning that lacks engagement isn't working. It feels forced upon employees, and there's resistance as they don't see the benefits of any real-world application. And I'm sure that many of us have felt the same when we're asked to read these long papers or sit through a boring video that's quite long. Sometimes what's online is not working when something much shorter and much more to the point and much more to the point of my work could be provided. And this is what the trends are pointing towards. So in this day and age where everybody has access to Google, YouTube, Twitter, chatting on their mobile phones, getting information is quite easy. And then they come to the office. How can they really compete with what's online? And 80% of the training in large organizations is either online or online element, but how can that be delivered and with good speed and with good quality? This findings from the report: a laptop is the most preferred device across all industries. And probably tonight, many of us are sitting on a laptop. I certainly am as I talk. Much more convenient. A mobile is a preferred device in several industries, especially in high tech. And these devices are really democratizing access to information throughout the world. And many learners prefer training that's under 20 minutes. And that's one reason I'm speaking quickly, is to make sure that we can finish within 20 minutes this evening. Because it really is get boring after too long of too much information. This is a quite interesting finding. Did you know it only takes learners 7 seconds before deciding whether to move on from learning content? I think many of us have had that experience on YouTube, where you get into YouTube and you find, oh, this is pretty boring, let's go on to the next one. So it's really important that the types of materials that we are offering to employees and also to clients is really targeted to their needs, and also not too long and very effective in terms of communication. Findings, what learners are often getting in their organizations now are boring, repetitive, time-consuming. I'm sure all of us have experienced that. And what learners want is something that's quick and easy, interactive. And I would also say something that's very relevant to their own issues. 50% of learners want more personalized learning content. So if I have a specific problem, I want to have a specific answer without spending too much time. The study came up with 5 major corporate training trends. And this also involves the use, of course, of many of the new technology tools that we have. Microlearning goes from strength to strength. So microlearning is usually something that's very focused and looking at a very specific issue that's not too long. So microlearning is a particular type of activity in terms of being able to develop those types of activities. Sometimes microlearning can just be, as I mentioned, the startup screen in the morning in the office, where you just get a message very quickly about whatever is going on, but it also might take you to some new learning tools that may be very relevant at that particular time. I have a friend in California that just wrote me that in their office, the boss put something on there about the Silicon Valley Bank situation, and is it going to cause their family's problem? So something that's very relevant to them that was on very short on their startup screen. These also are a type of micro-learning examples that provide employees with relevant information. Blended learning refers to using online, but also being in person. And this is very important. It used to be, of course, that we had only in person, and then computers were introduced. Now, for the last couple of years, we've been mostly on computers, but we will be going back to also having face-to-face issues. And so blended learning activities within the office can be very useful, but of course, we have to make sure that they're very focused and effective for their own particular needs. And again, to take an example from one of the UN offices, we were asked to have a 2-minute stand-up meeting with each other and to quickly write down what are some of the main issues that you're facing, type them into the computer and send them back to HR. So this is a very interesting kind of blended learning, is working with each other, having a particular topic and being able to respond. Of course, video is very important. We've all been using Zoom recently, so we know the power of having online, not just text, but also lots of videos. But videos can sometimes be too long if they're not very well made. They should be very much to the point and focused on very particular issues. One of the important issues about videos, of course, is finding them. And this is one area which is not addressed very strongly in the report, but it's a very important issue when using videos to make sure that employees can find the right video. This is one of the great things about using YouTube, of course, is that you can search YouTube, but it also offers you some related videos within the area that you're concerned about. And artificial intelligence is all in the news these days. And if we begin using some of the AI tools that are available, then we can begin to customize the kind of information that particular employees need. Probably all of us have experienced on again, on YouTube or on Google, that YouTube and Google seem to know what we're interested in. This is one of the great things about AI, is that when you start looking at a particular topic, the program learns what you're interested in. So if you're interested in a particular type of standardization, in my case, I'm interested in organic standards, I often get information about organic standards pushed to me. Nudge learning, just to let you know what that means, that's when you get these little notes that say, would you like to learn more about this particular topic? Yes, or later on. So these are things that an HR office can also push out to the staff to say, well, this one we should remember to look at this particular video or look at this particular topic. This is very important for our work within the corporation. And finally, well-being becomes a priority. And I think that, well, especially in the US, there's been this a great transformation from the time of COVID to now, that really there's a strong focus on health and wellness. And we need to make sure that we keep that always in mind as we develop activities. So again, not long, boring videos asking staff to have long investments in things that they're not interested in, but training tools, training technologies these days can be very targeted, very effective, very short, so that our employees can quickly grasp and quickly move forward on particular topics. This is part of the well-being of some of these training techniques that we're working on. In summary, there's 5 key trends that will create value for your businesses and employees. These are the 5 topics that were highlighted by this particular topic, by this particular report, excuse me. So truly embrace microlearning. And microlearning can just be, as I said, a quick shot on the computer, or it could be something quickly set out. It can even be done on phones as we use WhatsApp or some of the other chats. Create blended learning that flexes with your people, combining online tools together with in-person activities. Take video learning to the next level with user-generated content. Again, YouTube is a great example of that. Sometimes if I need to learn how to do something, I go onto YouTube and I find that there's another farmer who has the same problem, and I learn from them, or another inspector, another auditor who has the same kind of activities. Might be the best way to learn something from other persons that are facing the same kind of issue. We want to gather and personalize learning paths. This is one of the jobs of artificial intelligence, is to gather data and then to personalize materials that you're being exposed to. And then, of course, focus on employee well-being to positively impact people's lives. We always want our employees to be happy. They will feel energized. They will be better employees and be more productive, of course. We don't want to bore them, and we don't want to force them to do unusual training activities that just take up too much of a time when they're already stressed with so much other work anyway. So thank you very much. I would be happy to take some questions, as far as I understand from this very interesting report from this company, Lucidap.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kevin. And actually, you gave us really important informations. I truly learned a lot today. And I have some questions for you, so you can take our participants' questions after. I wanted to ask you, what platform from social media do you recommend the most for business owners or sales departments, let's say, to use for their businesses?
That's a good question. of course, Facebook is widely used in many organizations, especially in the UN. But in a large corporation, some of the big companies have their own platforms, of course. Smaller ones, in the one company I'm working with right now, we use a mobile phone with one of the chat softwares called Viber, and that provides the boss with a platform to immediately send out information almost every day, and for all of us to chat with each other. So I don't think there's just one platform, but it's probably a combination of several, depending on the size of your company and also the needs that you have.
But do you think, for example, the WhatsApp is would be really effective for, let's say, all businesses, or should like businesses focus more on, let's say, for Google, for example? Like from my experience, I find Google very good
Yes. Oh,
to be used. Yes, I see it as the main
Google. Yes, and Google has all kinds of apps that are integrated as well. But again, it depends a lot. WhatsApp is not used in all countries, of course. So that's one of the things that everybody has to agree on a particular platform and use that.
That's correct. Yes, I agree with you. Okay, my second question would be, should people focus on micro-learning instead? Like, should they make it the main way, let's say, of employment and like learning, the micro-learning, I mean?
I think that micro-learning tools are really useful to get out a particular message very quickly. If there's a new policy, if you're supposed to do something different in the office, getting that information out to employees through microlearning is very effective, but also pointing them in the direction of new materials. So, for example, I often receive microlearning kind of arrows that point me towards a new set of standards. So then when I have the time in my schedule, then I'm free to go and find that information and study it. So yes, I do think that microlearning is a really good way to start any particular dialogue or pointing people in the right direction of what they can be doing. And with some of the new AI, I don't know any particular software right now, but some of those microlearning tools can begin to be focused. I mean, in the case of one that can be based on languages. So if it's a particular language, pointing them in the right direction of something that that employee is able to work in that language or is responsible for working in a particular country with that language. So with AI, we hope that those pointers will be more relevant to each person as data is collected over time.
That's true. That's actually very true. Okay, and also, how important do you think the AI would be for businesses? As we know, the AI intelligence is getting, let's say, really famous and really public, like very fast, and most people are using it right now. It's very impressive, to be honest. So do you think, like, for the future, businesses should be focusing more on using AI instead of the current tools, let's say, they use them right now?
I think AI is going to be something that happens in the background. As we mentioned, as employees use particular topics, AI can help to funnel particular information to specific employees. But some of these new tools that are just coming out, the chat bot, these types of tools, I haven't used them myself, so I can't speak in depth about them. But they sound really amazing. That if there's an AI expert in the office, we may be able to use them to our advantage very quickly. I could imagine, I mean, already all of us are using our phones in using banks or airlines talking to AI robots that help us to change our booking, for example.
Yes.
You could imagine that many companies might start to invest in those type of tools.
Yes, correct. It's very impressive, to be honest, the AIs, and let's hope it's going to be a very great tool for businesses in the future. My last question would be, what is your advice for businesses owners to help and improve their employees' status and like their well-being? Like, what's the highlighted advice that you have for them?
Hmm. Well, if you're a boss, don't be the jerk. I think we can all agree that bosses should take a lot of effort to understand what are the specific needs of specific employees. And happy employees are much more productive. So that's, I think, again, in the UN, one of our morning sessions, it mentioned that 80% of people change their jobs because of the boss.
Correct.
And it's so important to learn to be a good boss and to know the specific needs of each staff member, and of course to have a good interaction with each one. It certainly, the research shows that the most productive staff are those that are happy and in a good environment.
Correct. I totally agree with you. It's very important. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Kevin, for answering my questions. And I want to welcome everyone and all our participants. As I can see, we have participants from Middle East and also Pakistan, Ukraine, and many other locations. Actually, it's very impressive. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And please, if you have any questions, you can write it down so Dr. Kevin can assist you with that. Also, if you have any questions about accreditation, so I can assist you with that.
Sarah, did I understand that you're going to send the report out to
Yes,
participants this evening?
Yes, we're going to be sharing it with the participants so they can have it and they can have clear informations about it as well. And actually, we had the first question, and Stuart is asking you, how can training providers increase the quality and revenue?
Well, again, we're talking about training for employees. And employees are usually the front line for quality. And so I'm not sure about the revenue aspect in a particular company, but normally, for example, I think all of us have been online with one of the airline persons, and if they don't understand very well what they're supposed to be doing, it can be very frustrating. That's certainly not good for revenue, I suppose. So I would say that quality of staff really reflect the quality of the company, and training helps those staff to be knowledgeable and to be able to respond well to clients.
That's correct. I agree with you. Our second question would be from Edishola. Any pattern suggesting demographic or saying generational differences to adoption?
That's a interesting question. It has a lot to do with policy. It was interesting when smartphones were first introduced in Korea, elderly were the first to be given training. The reason for that is that the expectation was that younger people could teach themselves, while older people, it was completely new technology. So certainly age differences need to be taken into consideration. Unfortunately, the internet is largely English. So there are also language issues across countries. That's something that we also have to take into consideration. I think it's the statistic is something like 70% of information on the internet today is in English. So when you're doing searches for information, YouTube's, etc., all of this is going to be in English. And of course, younger people are speaking English much better than the elderly, or another language, for example. Young people these days have access to quite a few languages that we would say others didn't. There's a big, in my field in agriculture, we always talk about the big gap between rural and urban. And that I think is something that's breaking down a little bit. Internet is much more accessible outside of urban areas. But of course, as we talk about mostly internet-based or smartphone-based technologies, we're usually talking about more urban areas and urban clients. So that's also an area that we need to focus on a little bit better. And also in our companies, we need to remember that many of the small companies that are not in urban areas may not have the kind of tools that we think they might have.
That's great. Yes, I agree as well with you. Actually, you've given a lot of really good information and advices. It's very important and highlighted right now, especially for this year, because a lot is changing this year. A lot is changing, so everyone needs to focus really hard.
Yes.
Okay, and we received a question from Abdul Rauf. What are the good strategies for the skills improvement as a training in terms of accreditation? Actually, I would like to answer this question. Make training programs compliant with the best practices. Having up-to-date materials, assessments, mechanism, and structures, qualifications. I hope my answer served you well. Let's see if we have. Okay, what are the main requirements to be accredited as a training centers? As I said, Mr. Stewart, before, we would need your entity documentations and also your trainers, instructors, qualifications, of course, and your programs materials, such as presentations, like the whole materials of the programs. Okay, this question is for you, Dr. Kevin. How can we encourage employers to give more training programs and see the importance of it nowadays?
Actually, this report that is going to be sent to you and was discussed this evening on training trends, I think that that's a good place to start because you have it in your hand. That talks very clearly about the type of training that can be done. What's interesting is that most of them are not very expensive. I'm sure that many employers are concerned about the cost of training, but yeah, it's an interesting question. How do you justify going to school? There's a lot of economics behind it, but most important is if the staff can do their job better, they're probably better for the company.
Of course, yes, I agree. Okay, and Mr. Khaled, he's asking, one of the challenge which facing the training and education services is the cost. What is your recommendation about the important point should to be introduced by the training provider marketer? Certificate, traceability, service quality, trainers.
Mr. Saad and myself are working in Mongolia these days, and this is actually one of the interesting points that we've been faced with is the cost of training. if you're really lucky, then somebody else has done the training before, and you can use those existing materials. If you're unlucky, like we are in Mongolia, where things has to be done in Mongolian in a completely new environment, then it's of course quite expensive to translate and to make presentations, oftentimes in country. So maybe that just doing the background and finding existing training materials will help a lot. But second is to, these days, there's a lot of tools for experts within organizations to be able to develop their own materials, not necessarily have to get a consultant, although consultants have a little bit more professionalism. Although these days, some of the tools that are available on our laptops and smartphones are pretty impressive. So I would say that looking within an organization for those persons with some extra skills could be a good way. And then in worst case, going through an organization like AAA to find specific experts that can provide very specific targeted learning would be very helpful, I suppose.
I agree with you. And regarding the point that you said about the materials, I wanted to ask you, do you think, from my profession, I think it's always better if organizations, institutions created their own materials, because especially if it was really professional and strong, it makes it better for whoever is receiving these materials. So do you recommend if owners should work more to create a unique or like their own materials for their trainings and everything, or what do you think regarding that point?
I guess it depends a bit on the topic. These days there's a huge amount of material on sites like YouTube, and it may only be that you point staff to a particular place to go and look at particular materials. If those materials are not existing or are not relevant in the wrong language, then you may have to develop your own materials. And as I said, I mean, sometimes it's just as like we're doing this evening on Zoom, using PowerPoint. It's not a very difficult. This is being recorded, and it's quite easy to review it again. That I know that many of my colleagues whose English is not very good, they will go back and listen one more time for points that they didn't catch the first time.
Yes, of course. And that's also, we will be sharing the presentation that you gave with all of our participants, of course, and all our members as well. So I would like to ask all the participants if you can share your email addresses so we can contact you and share with you the presentation. And so far, Dr. Kevin, thank you so much for your time today. And it was amazing having you with all these information. We learned a lot, of course. And I wanted to ask our participants if that's okay with you. We would like to take a group picture of the webinar so we can share it. So if you feel comfortable to share your camera, your video with us, so we can do that, it would be great. And again, thank you all for your time today. It was amazing having you.
I'm very impressed, if I may say so, the diversity and geographic range of participants. I'm very happy to see such good participation with so many perspectives.
Yes, of course. And that's why we like to work internationally. It's amazing to meet new people all the time. Okay, just 1 second. Okay, thank you again, everyone. And it was a pleasure meeting you. And let's hope we're going to see you in our next training or our next webinar, of course. Uh, and Dr. Rana Alam is also here. Welcome and thank you for joining today as well. Mr. Kevin, again, thank you so much for your time. And
No, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here tonight.
thank you. And if you need to contact us, you can contact us through our contact information I shared before, or you can log into our website and contact us directly. Thank you again for your time, everyone, and have a great day. Have a great evening. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Night.